Hi everyone, welcome back to Art Abilities. This is week 4. So let's take a look at our materials. You've got your bag that says week 3 and 4. Inside it, you should find a smaller bag that says week 4. So we're going to need that. And then other materials you're going to need are your paint brushes, plastic cup, our paint kit, all our little paints, and our canvas board. We will be painting today, so make sure you've got something covering your clothes and the table you're going to be working on. So go ahead and gather your materials, and then we will get started. Now that you have all of your materials and your table is covered, your clothes are covered, or you have on clothes you can get messy in, we're going to begin with step 1. So grab your canvas, and then we're going to look at what color we want to paint the sky. So we've got 4 different blues to choose from. So you can pick whatever blue you want. I think I might choose a slightly lighter blue, the kind of aqua one, but you can pick any of the blues. So I'm going to switch the view here so you can see my setup, and we will get started. All right, here's my setup. I've got some grocery bags underneath my canvas. I've got my blue color of choice. I'm going to use my biggest brush, but you can use whichever brush you like. I've got a cup with a little bit of water in it, and then some of my own paper towels. So these are not the paper towels from the kit. We'll use those later. So I'm going to open this up, and then just gonna lay down some color on the whole thing. So I started with getting the paint out of the lid, and I'm just going to start painting. I can even dip my brush in the water and bring a little water over to make it spread a little easier. So it doesn't have to be a very pretty coat of paint. It doesn't have to be really smooth. So it's just sort of the background color, and we're going to be doing stuff over it. So you want to cover the whole canvas in your color. Again, you can add a little bit of water from the cup, just bring it over, mix it in. And I'm just spreading out the paint. All right, this is mine fully covered. It's a little patchy. That's okay. Once you're done, just make sure you clean out your brush, cap your paint, and then allow your paint to dry before you go on to step 2. All right, now that your canvas is dry, mine's mostly dry, we are ready for step 2. So we're going to grab our black paint, or it might be dark brown, the darkest, the darkest one you have, and then we're going to grab one of the pointy brushes. So I'll show it up close on the other camera. And we're going to make some trees. So let's get ready for step 2. So I've got one of my smaller brushes that kind of comes to a point. And then I've got my darker color here. And we're going to start making trees. So what we start with is just making a line, and we want to start at the edge. So I'm going to be at the bottom edge and just making little lines, little dashes to make a bigger line. So I'm going to have to keep dipping my brush in here. There you go. Make sure you keep your brush wet. And then we don't want the line to be perfectly straight. We want to stop before we hit the center here. So we're going to leave this space in the center kind of open and clear. So I'm just going to go back over these lines a little bit. There, so I've got my first line. Now I'm going to do another one just off to the side, close to the corner. And I'm going to start going towards the center. Just making little dashes with my brush. And it's not a perfect line. That's okay, because trees are not perfect. So just make sure you are hitting down to the bottom. You want to get all the way to the edge so it doesn't look like the trees are floating. There we go. So this tree is going to be a little bit shorter. And then I'm going to do one over here, just kind of by the corner, a little bit above. And again, I'm going to start angling towards the center. Just take your time with this. There, so they're all different lengths. And now I'm going to turn my canvas and I'm going to make some trees on this side here. So this one's going to be a little bit shorter. Again, starting at the edge. Good. I'm going to do one more right next to it, kind of angled in. Make this one a little bit taller. They don't all need to be the same height or end at the same point. So go ahead and keep adding trees around the perimeter. We're just adding the lines right now. We'll add the branches later. So just for now, make sure you're filling in that trunk. Once you have your lines going in there, you can start to make them thicker at the edge of the canvas and going up. So it's almost like really thin, long triangles. So you want to add a little bit more weight at the bottom here. So I'm just going around and making my lines thicker by the edge, and just as it goes up, it's a little bit skinnier and a little bit skinnier. Because we're going to be looking up at the trees from lying on the ground. So we're going to get that perspective of big fat trunks, and then as it gets up higher and higher, farther away, they get skinnier, a little more wispy. So just take your time. Again, we're kind of leaving this space in the middle where we're going to have just open sky. And I'm just spot checking here too, adding in little spots where I didn't get enough paint. You know, my lines are kind of knobbly, just like a tree would be. So don't worry about making them perfect. But we're just gonna put as many trees as you want here. I like to make sure maybe there's a couple trees next to each other, and then like a big space, and then maybe a grouping of them over here. So 3 are kind of close together, and see as they get closer to the center, the the trees are almost touching each other, the ones that are by each other. So they're all going towards that center point. So once you have all of your tree trunks the way you want them, thicker near the edge of the canvas and thinner near the center, then you're ready to go on to the next step. We're now ready to move on to step 3. You've got all of your tree trunks around the outside of the canvas, pointing in. Now we're going to make some branches. So the branches, we're going to be making little Y shapes. So we're going to use the same brush, one of those pointy round brushes. And this is just a close-up example. So here's the tree trunk. We're going to make a little branch angled off to the side and then make a little Y. So I've got 2 branches on this tree. I might do one more. We're kind of staggering them so they're not right by each other. So there's one on the right side, there's one on the left side. Now the next one I'll have on the right side, and I'm going to make them just a little shorter as we go up. And that one can have just a little Y there. Here. All right, so I'm going to get started doing that on the canvas. So I'm going to do a branch out at an angle, just a little one, and then a little separate branch. So it's like a little Y. And I could even put just another jutting out arm right there. And then to balance it out, I'm going to have another branch on the other side. So just going out at an angle. And then I'll make a little Y. There we go. So you can see that. So I'm going to go around to each tree and I'll give them 2 or 3 branches. And sometimes they can just be like a single arm like that. So like this one's just a little arm. So I went ahead and made a few more trees. So some of them are a little bit messy, and that's okay because it's just sort of giving the tree a shape. So I just kind of made a little, it is a Y shape, but it's kind of messy, and that's okay. And some of these, the branches start at different levels from each other, so they're not all the same. And then even at the top of this tree, I have the top split into 2. And then, let's see, here I've got 2 branches, right, one above the next. So it's not always alternating. So just kind of let your trees take shape, or making little branches, making little Ys as you turn your canvas to get a better vantage point. You can definitely just play around with it. Make the branches a little thicker where they connect with the tree, and a little bit thinner as they reach away from the tree. Just like regular branches, as they move away from the tree, they get a little bit finer. But it can be a little bit messy too. So keep working on that. And once you've filled your trees with as many branches as you want, then you're going to let it dry before moving on to the next step. Now that my trees and branches are all dry, we're gonna move on to step 4. So this is where we're going to grab our little baggie with week 4 on it. It's got a bowl, a couple of wooden sticks, and then some paper towels. So we are going to make some leaves for our trees. So let's take a look. All right, so I've got my bowl, and then I am choosing my leaf color. So I think I'm going to go with this darker green, and then maybe the light green, maybe the yellow. We'll see. I want to see how the dark green looks first. And I'm going to have my paper towels off to the side. Let's open the screen. I'm going to take the little wooden scoop, and I'm going to scoop some into the bowl. So it's like a nice size scoop here. So we'll just start with that, and then I'm going to let that rest on the lid off to the side. So now I'm going to take my paper towel, open it up, and then I'm just going to crumple it. There we go. So it's just got a good crumple to it. And now I'm going to dip it in, just dab it on. So we've got a little bit of green on here. And now we're going to begin to start dabbing around the trees. So you're still going to be able to see the trees. Okay, and I'm running out, so then I'll dip more. There we go. I'm going around each of the trees, filling them up with leaves. So as you run out of paint, just keep scooping with the wooden tool and placing it into your bowl. And then you're going to dab your paper towel in there and then dab it on our trees. So I am kind of starting my leaves where the branches begin. You can see that. So you can go farther down, but I just wanted to show that maybe those are just the trunks. But you definitely can have leaves further down. And I'm leaving this circle in the middle where above the trees, keeping that pretty free of leaves. That's just going to be sky. So I'm going to repeat that process. Dip your paper towel in the paint, dab on the trees until they're pretty full, or as full as you'd like. And then when you're done with that, you can move on to step 5. Now that I've got my green leaves on, I'm going to add one more color. So step 5 is adding another leaf color. So it's optional. You don't have to do it, but I'm going to add a lighter color. So I'm going to add a little bit of yellow. So using that same process, I'm going to open my paint, take my clean wooden spoon, and scoop it into the bowl. I can just do it on a different place on the bowl or right over the paint. It's okay if it mixes in. And then I'm going to grab my clean paper towel, open it up, and then crumple it. So it's got lots of good texture. And then once it's crumpled, I'm going to dip it into that fresh color and then start to add little accents on my trees. So they don't all have to have the two colors, but whatever feels good to you. As I run out of paint, I'm just dipping it back into my bowl. So the colors are mixing a little bit. Which is just fine. So you can keep doing that. You can add more colors if you want. But so that's where mine's at for now. I might add more to it, but you know, you see it can turn around different orientations. It's just like we're lying on our backs, looking up at the trees above us. Once you are done with that second color, you are welcome to add a third or even a fourth if you want, but you can stop at one as well. So this is all based on what you want and what feels good to you. So the last step is to just let it dry and hang on to your supplies for the following weeks. All right. I will see you guys next week. It's been a lot of fun.